Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bells Must Ring podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Rice, here with my usual co host, Arnav Sarkar. We have a very special treat for you guys today. Coming on to talk a little bit of ball and bourbon with us is Eric LeGrand. His company Eric LeGrand Bourbon just launched a new product called the Scarlet Knight Series, which is a bourbon collaboration between his company and Rutgers University. How you doing today, Eric?
I'm doing well, Andrew. I appreciate you guys having me on. How are you?
I really can't complain. So a little bit, just diving deep into your company and the product itself. Do you mind just giving us a little bit of a rundown of your company, the product itself, and the relationship that it will have with Rutgers University?
Sure. So we launched Eric LeGrand Kentucky Straight Bourbon in March of 2023 with the goal to be able to serve quality bourbon, but also raise funds for Christopher and Dana Reed Foundation. As most Rutgers people know, my number was 52. So $5.20 for every case we sell goes back to the foundation. But as we were building the brand, we wanted to do a partnership with Rutgers at the beginning when we became a proud partner of Rutgers Athletics back in 2023, which was the first time the athletic department had partnered up with the Spirits brand. But my business partner Brian Axelrod and I, we said, this brand goes way beyond just athletics and sports and whatnot. So somehow we got to do a collaboration with the university. And when it comes to liquor and universities, let's just say there's a lot of holes that you got to jump through it. A lot of steps you got to take in order to get approvals and the rights and our trademark and all that stuff. But it was about a 9-month process. I felt like I went through a whole pregnancy, birth to baby. This is like my baby now after 9 months. But it was really cool to finally get all the approvals done and the powers that be to be able to give us the approval to collaborate with the university and for the first time ever put the Block R on the Spirits bottle, which I mean I can't be more proud and more thankful to the university for it. Obviously for the alumni and people to really enjoy and take to it.
Yeah, I'm sure that, especially with somebody that is as Mr. Rutgers as yourself, I'm sure people love to have a product with the Scarlet R and your last name on it. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about the foundation that the $5.20 go to, and a little bit more about your about how like the relationship with the bourbon works with Rutgers in general?
Sure. So my foundation, I formed Team LeGrand of the Christopher and Dana Reed Foundation in the fall of 2013. And the Christopher and Dana Reed Foundation had reached out to me from the very beginning of my injury, offering up their support and guidance for people that live with paralysis and with spinal cord injuries. And I didn't really know much about them until I had asked my mom who Christopher and Dana Reed was. She yelled at me for not knowing who he was, that he was the original Superman in the 70s and whatnot. Did my research on the foundation. And obviously, I found out that they passed away back in 2004, 2005. And I kind of felt like the torch was then passed along to myself to help us, live Christopher Reed's dream. And that's a world of empty wheelchairs and help us find a cure for paralysis. So I'm proud to say since our inception, we've raised close to $3 million now, and we'll keep on pushing through. And, have everything that I pretty much do, it's for a purpose or for a reason. So that's why I was happy to be able to partner with them, with the bourbon, as well as all my other initiatives I did to raise money for the foundation. But then when it came to Rutgers, I know how big our alumni base is. I know the support that we give. Obviously going out to football games, you see the tailgates and whatnot. I always envisioned, having the bourbon there. But I'd say when we did the collaboration with the university, I'm like, this is bigger than just, the tailgates. This is celebratory moments for alumni when they're graduating, for their kids, or, celebrate moments just of, we pour a glass of bourbon for the Rutgers community. Whether if that's at a graduation, whether if it's at a football game, basketball game, whatever it is, or if it may be just somebody that enjoys bourbon in the Rutgers community. This bottle can touch so many different people. So we are proud to be able to put this together for the whole university, whether it's Rutgers, New Brunswick, North Camden, whatever it is. That Block R travels a lot of places. So that was the purpose behind it.
Yeah, and with the way the football season has gone so far, I think they're probably enjoying the bourbon a little bit more than usual.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah. It's definitely been a rough few weeks, but hopefully we'll have a nice bounce back week.
Well, yeah, especially coming out of the bye week. But we did just want to kind of use that to segue into what a lot of this podcast is going to be about. We just wanted to quickly get your opinion on how the season has started so far, how the team has looked. What are you seeing as a former player that maybe the untrained eye might not see?
Yeah, so I love to be able to break it down into football one-on-one for things I see, because as a regular fan, you just see, the scores, touchdown, big plays, this and that. But when you actually break down the film and see what's going on out there, obviously the offense right now, they're firing at levels that we haven't seen at Rutgers in a very long time. And it makes me happy to watch them. And those two receivers, we got Ian Strong and KJ Duff, those are NFL wide receivers. And, a little lightning in there with DT Sheffield. We got weapons on the side. And Antoine Raymond has filled in very well for Kyle Monunga. That's one position that we never have an issue with at Rutgers is a running back. We always somehow, some way find a running back that is NFL worthy. But then you go obviously to the defensive side, and the defense has had their struggles. And one big thing is guys not being in the right place at the right time. They're supposed to be in certain gaps, and people aren't in their gaps or are getting overtaken. That's what I'm saying. And like a big thing with the Rutgers defense is we call it, you got to set the edge of a defense. So if you see a lot of the big plays are coming off of off tackle runs, that's outside runs, and you rely on your defensive ends and sometimes your corners and linebackers that come down there and set the edge of a defense, which means you're holding the edge so that the man cannot get outside of you. And then you allow the rest of your team to swarm there and you cause like a big collapse right in the middle and everyone makes the tackle. But Rutgers, unfortunately, has not set the edge very well this year. And teams are getting outside them and they're getting big plays. And then a lot of missed coverages down the field as well, where guys' eyes are in the right place at the right time. So big plays happen, as well as not getting pressure on the quarterback and then making your DBs cover for a lot longer than they normally would. So it's a mixture of things that are all correctable that they can do, but they just have to, find the correct bodies to do it. And that's where it's been at pretty much this entire, they play 5 games so far. We've seen those big chunk plays at the teams because of guys being in the wrong place at the right time and their eye discipline not being in the right spot.
Do you think that a lot of the out of position playing and a lot of kind of getting lost in the sauce has a little bit more to do with the scheme that they're running and the complexity of the scheme, or what could be the possible reason behind something like that?
Well, you also got a lot of new guys out there too. A lot of in the world that we live in now with college athletics, you get transfers coming in from different systems almost every year now. And then you get thrown into this system and you think about this off season as long, but you actually don't get a lot of practice reps in there. A lot of them are more mental, but you only get 16 practices in the spring with the spring game. Then you get those 3 weeks of training camp, and then there you go. You're thrown into the season. So when you got guys, that aren't in this program for 3, 4, 5 years at a time, it's kind of hard. And that's what happened. You see a lot of the DBs, they're new. You get some of the older guys that have been there for a while, but you got new DBs, you get new defensive linemen that are in there. So a lot of times you'll see they're trying to catch their, can stay above water, catch their ground. But when you're playing in the Big Ten, there's not a lot of room for error. You got to be ready, prepared. You got to go out there week in and week out. And you're starting to see, they are getting better. Not as many big plays are being allowed, but there's still those killer plays where they have to be able to figure out getting off the field on third downs, forcing the punt team out there, letting your special teams do your thing. And I'm hoping with the bye week, you got the guys that needed to get their rest that were banged up a little bit, got that. And then a lot of those guys that are in the rotation that are playing, that they were able to develop them a little bit more. As many reps as you can get, that's huge for you. So having that bye week right when they had it, I think came at the perfect time.
Is there anything specific that you're looking for from the defense coming out of the bye week? Shiano touched on in his press conference that they're really returning to fundamentals, but I have a feeling that might be a little bit of Shiano talk. Is there anything that specifically or any something that you're looking for them specifically to correct during the bye week for the defense?
Yeah, I started to actually see it a little bit, but this goes towards the 2-level, the whole front seven. The D-line needs to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage, which means they need to be able to get into the backfield to force those TFLs and close down some of those run gaps. I've actually noticed, especially versus Iowa, the defense was actually doing pretty well. The defensive line, I should say, penetrating into the backfield. It was when the linebackers were getting kind of caught in the sauce where the big plays would come up. Because if you can get defensive linemen knocking back offensive linemen, it changes up the run lanes for these running backs to go to. But the linebackers have to be there to fill those holes as well as the safety that comes down into the box to play those positions. So they actually started to get some knockback in the past 2 weeks on the defensive side of the ball, which I was very impressed to see up front. It's now filling in those right gaps with your linebackers and safeties to make sure that they're plugging and playing. So if they can continue now to cause disruption in the backfield, they're going to have their hands full this week versus a Washington team who has a great running back. And obviously their quarterback is very mobile in Damon Williams. So they're definitely going to have a challenge ahead of them. But I'm happy to start seeing the defensive line getting on the other side because the first 3 weeks, there wasn't much penetration into the backfield. And you're like, whoa, that's
right.
not at all.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that me and Arnav have talked about ad nauseum on like how we didn't have how it took us 3 games in to finally start generating some sacks and generating some pressure. With us going out to Washington, you obviously you have been a player before. Did you ever have to take like a really long cross country road trip like that? And what's that kind of like for a team as they're moving out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think the farthest trip, honestly, I had to go to because I was in the Big East. So it might have been Louisville. Like it wasn't like nowadays, like you're traveling across country, you're playing in all these different time regions and whatnot. But I will say traveling out to Louisville the day of Thanksgiving and playing the morning after Thanksgiving. That was an insane trip because we flew out there, you land there, around 6 o'clock at night, you go to team meetings and then kickoff was 11 a.m. local time that day. And then when that alarm clock went off at 5:30 in the morning, you're like, whoa, what's going on? So you have to get Coach Yanos always talks about building the fire through the week. Tuesday, Wednesday, you're going to have this slow build. Thursday comes and starts to get a little bit more engulfed. And then Friday comes and you have to try to settle that fire because you don't want to be burned out from all the week. And then when Saturday comes, it's kind of, all right, it's time to let loose. So now having a bye week for them before they had to travel cross country like this was huge. Because if you had to play on Saturday and then come back, you have your practice on Sunday, off day on Monday, and you probably wouldn't even get the off day because you play on a short week on Friday. That would have been rough for them. But having that bye week and being able to get their mind right, I don't know if they changed their practice times at all to try to get used to that. But I'm sure they'll go out there a day earlier than they usually do, just to try to get adjusted to that 3-hour time difference. And then next thing you know, you're kicking off at 9 p.m. local time. Well, no, I should say Eastern time, and the local time is 6 p.m. But you got to do what you got to do nowadays.
Yeah, it seems it almost seems like unthinkable that Rutgers is kicking off at 9 p.m., but that was a reality that we had last year. And, I'm
sorry to cut you off. And that 11 p.m. game last year kickoff was brutal. Because you guys know I do the radio for the broadcast. I had to do the post-game show. I'm like, who is listening to us right now? It's 3 o'clock in the
morning. Yeah. I remember being up for that one too. So yeah.
I think I might have been listening. I'll be honest with you there. I think I might have been listening.
That is hilarious. Yeah, that was what I was sitting there like, wow. Like I really wonder who is listening to us as I'm falling asleep on the commercial breaks waiting for Shiano's press conference at 3:17 in the morning.
Yeah.
So that was almost us trying to get back from the Iowa game. I'm sure you heard that there was some problems with the buses. It took us. I don't think I ended up getting home and writing my post-game recap until like 2:30 in the morning.
So, yeah, I remember. But I heard about that trip. That's crazy, man. To travel, that's the thing that people don't see. The traveling behind the scene on like the media and all that stuff. Like it's. I'm in there with you guys, so I get it. Those late nights, and we'll have another one on Friday.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. At least it's not as late as last year when it was like 11 p.m. local start or Eastern start and 8 p.m. local start on the West Coast.
Yeah, Arnav, I went to bed at 4:30 that morning after finally, finishing the show and then getting into bed, getting settled, and then next thing you know, I was up at 7:30 the next morning. I said, I'm getting too old for this now. Like, in my 20s, I could do those 3-hour nights, but not that.
Right. Yeah, I totally feel you.
Speaking of our West Coast trip coming up, obviously we have to go out there and play a pretty damn good team. Jonah Coleman, especially with Rutgers run defense in the past couple of weeks has been kind of giving me a little bit of nightmares. Is there anything like specifically that like any like positional battle that you're looking at, like keying in that Washington does really well and Rutgers does really well, like a strength on strength, or almost like a weakness on weakness on the flip side?
Well, we know with Jordan Coleman, they're going to pound that rock with him. They know that Rutgers is susceptible in the running game, so you're going to see that early. You're going to see that quick. Washington's going to try to establish that run game, and it's going to see if the D-line and the linebackers have they, fixed what they need to fix over the bye week and be able to play a physical game like that. Washington has a big, strong offensive line that's very tough and disciplined. And then you notice that when they pass too, now you got to worry about multiple things with Damon Williams, where he has an elite wide receiver on the outside that he can throw to. But when the play breaks down, guess what? That man is quick. He is shifty, and you got to find a way to get him on the ground, which is not an easy. That's a tall task right there. So they're going to be challenged in multiple ways, but I know Washington, they're going to try to establish this run and try to make big plays on it. If you remember last year, they went up and down the field on us with those big chunk runs. Somehow we won that game with the Black. Yeah. Don't know how we won with it if you looked at the stats. We found a way to get the job done, but I'm sure they're going to try to do the same thing. They're a tough, hard-nosed, strong football team, and they want to establish a running game, and that's exactly, I feel like, how they're going to challenge the Scarlet Knights. So that O-line, D-line is going to be that battle that you try to see who can last the longest.
Yeah, and on the flip side as well, Washington, I was doing an article kind of previewing the game, looking at some of their highlights from the past couple of weeks. Obviously, the comeback was miraculous against Maryland, but I mean, I was also seeing that against the run themselves, Washington is allowing under 3 yards per carry. I believe they're top 10 in the country. I think they're like 9th in that stat. So for Rutgers, they just had their best run game, a running day of the year with Antoine Raymond having, I believe, 160 plus yards of rushing. So in this game, I mean, it's gonna, I guess, to use that strength versus strength thing, it's gonna be Antoine Raymond versus a strong run defense. So does that kind of open up the pass for Rutgers? How do you think the Scarlet Knights will attack Washington's defense when they're on offense?
It's actually been crazy because you obviously with Rutgers, we've known that it's always been run, and then you try to run to open up the pass, and now it's actually
the opposite.
They're passing more than they're actually running the ball. I don't blame you. You got those 2 wide receivers out there, so knowing that you're facing a run defense in Washington, you're going to want to pass the ball to try to open it up, make them bring that safety up, 2 safeties back, so you can have that extra person in the run game where you can outnumber the guys up front. So Rutgers, I'm sure, I know no matter what, they want to establish a running game, and the offensive line and Kirk Chirac and his offense, they got some tough guys, and they know that, you got to bring your shovel and pail. We got to work, but I wouldn't be surprised if they start opening up through the air. 18 Calais McManus has been very efficient this year, and they know what their strong points are. And if you can do that, then those runs start to come along, and you see Antoine Raymond, he's able to carry for chunks at a time, which is perfect. So that's why I don't know if they're going to come out pounding, and then try to open it up, because I've said that a few times that they were going to do that, and they did the exact opposite. So I think this time I'm going to go with they're going to go keep us stay with their guns and go with the pass to open up the run game.
Yeah, speaking of Calais McManus's consistency, especially the past 2 games, it feels like the offense has been consistent until the point that it needs to be. Obviously, you had the costly pick against Iowa. You had that fumble against Minnesota. Do you have any possible context of why it seems, when the offense's number is called upon to kind of steal the game, we have had those kind of issues back to back?
Yeah, it's hard to put a foot on it, because if you look at the film, the one pass rush that Iowa finally got to Ethan, he was just able to tip the ball and not allow Ethan to follow through. But it gets tipped up in the air, and Iowa makes a play on it. That's just unfortunate. And then another thing, the crowd noise got to them, and all of a sudden, Gus Liskin snaps it under Ethan's legs, and next thing you know, you're like, oh, but you're already in field position. But those things are fixable. Those are obviously mistakes that you can't have in those moments, because they're killer mistakes that you need, but they're fixable. And you got the guys over there that have proven that they can go up and down the field on offense. It's just now in those crucial moments You need to make sure that they're not prepared. And usually adversity helps you with that. When you go through that adversity, you've been challenged like that, usually build that callous and you're able to handle those next moments. And I'm sure they're going to be putting more moments like that this year when it comes down to the end of the game and you need that drive to go. Well, guess what? They've been in those situations now twice and unfortunately came up on the short end of the stick. Well, hopefully now that you've been through that, you understand it, you fix those mistakes, and you go out there and make it happen. The only way to get better is to keep on doing it and you learn from your mistakes. And unfortunately, Rutgers has had to learn from that those past 2 weeks before the bye week that's happened. So I have confidence in them, though. This is, like I said, the most confident I've ever been in a Rutgers offense that I've seen in a long time.
Well, honestly, I hope you're right about fixing the mistakes because they're going to be facing a lot louder crowds than that come when they have to go play in the shoe and even when they have to go play at Washington.
Yeah, that crowd is going to, I'm sure, on a Friday night, national TV, FS1.
Yeah.
It's gonna be loud in that stadium. It's going to be rocking in. It's nothing the environments that they haven't played in before. They played in the big house. They played at the shoe before. They played at Penn State. So they've been in these crowds with some of these guys, but now it's just got to go out there and execute.
And they'll have their way to do that. Speaking of learning from mistakes, nobody really wants to talk about it, but I feel like we have to. Special teams has usually been a strong suit for Rutgers. Patel broke the record for the longest amount of field goals made. We all know Shiano with his kick block mentality and his special teams, like he drives it in as just as important as the other two, and it is. But it seems like in this year, especially with all the kicks that have been blocked, and we have almost kind of taken a step back. Is that something that you think is going to be like fixed during the bye week, or what are your thoughts on the special teams performance so far?
As you know, Andrew, as you say, Coach Shiano treats those special team moments as hard as anything in the game. I remember when I was playing, man, we used to practice and drill those special teams, and we would rep them because those are crucial moments in the game. And he looks at it as an opportunity to, especially when it comes to like the pump block team and all that. Like that's an opportunity to change momentum, flip the script, get a pump block, short field, or even scoop and score for a touchdown. And we've seen Rutgers do that already this year, which they've been charged at still. But yes, in the field goal blocking, in the field goal game now, trying to block those things. I've noticed Patel's balls are definitely coming off a little bit lower, more line drives instead of getting some depth under them. Let me not sit here and talk to you like I'm a kicking expert and tell you I know how to kick the ball, get more lift on it. And this and that. We were always told, leave the kicker alone, don't bother them, let them do their thing. I have no idea how to coach up a kicker. No idea. But from what I see, the balls are definitely coming out lower and more of a line drive than they are, but getting some air under them, which is obviously not good because these big defensive linemen are getting those hands up and blocking them. And the O-line's got to obviously do their job and hold up front. But if the ball's coming out low when they're kicking it, they don't have to. No matter how good your protection is, those guys are big, 6'5", 6'4", 6'6", whatever it is. They get those hands up there, they're going to block it. So obviously, Jay Patel has to do his job of getting the ball more lift on it. And then obviously kickoff too, kickoff and kickoff return. Those are parts of the game where kickoff returns kind of been non-existent for Rutgers. They don't really do much in that game, but the kickoff team, those guys got to stay in their run lanes and they can't be getting washed all the way over and jumping out of the run lanes. I'll never forget the one game, I think it was 2009. 2010, we played UConn at Rutgers. It might have been a Friday night game or Thursday night game. Under the lights, we weren't all red uniforms. I ran down that kickoff hundreds of times before, as you guys know. One day, I jumped out of my lane, and I tried to get fancy and I was supposed to stay outside. I went inside. I got washed all the way inside, and my man took that thing to the house. And I was like, wow. Like, usually I didn't make mistakes like that, but I got a little bit fancy. And I saw how that one person jumping out of the lane, being me, a guy can take it to the house. And unfortunately, we've seen that in the Iowa game and some bigger chunk plays too in that kickoff return game.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you to kind of break down that Iowa kickoff return. Obviously, from where we were, we actually kind of had a very good view of the hole that opened up. It didn't even. It looked like he could have run a bus through there. Like there was nobody even touching him.
Yeah, they knew who they had back there. They got a special returner, and you give him any room, he's going to take it to the house. But obviously they saw something on film. They must have seen guys pursuing too far in, or maybe getting lackadaisical in their run, thinking that they're going to kick it out the end zone. And guys are, trying to sprint down to the end zone instead of actually staying and maintaining their lanes. And they were able to legit set up a wall of defenders, and they just sealed off an entire wall, and the entire Rutgers kickoff team was sealed inside of that wall. So that hole just opened up, and part of like the Red Sea, and that obviously, like we said, we knew how special that returner was for them. That he didn't need much space, but he had a whole ocean to run through.
Yeah. Special teams has always kind of led to special moments for Rutgers. Kasim Green blocking the kick way back in the day. I think it was against Army. I could be wrong about that. Janorian Grant's two punt return touchdown in 2012. Kaboko Ture blocks the kick against Michigan, or recently the blocked kick against Miami that swung the bowl game back in our favor.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, but now it seems like that those kind of like miracle moments have been going against us. Hopefully they get that fixed. Shiano did mention that Patel has been looking better with his kicks in practice, so hopefully they just get that all figured out then.
No, they're huge parts of the game, and we need those moments. Coach Shiano knows. I'm not going to say anything that they don't know. Those are huge game-swinging moments that we need to be on the other side of, because that's what Rutgers has lived off of, those moments where they change games around, bring the momentum to their side, and that's how they found a way to finish games with special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and another thing, I guess, about in special teams, like not only did Iowa, obviously Kane Weegan, who's a really good returner, I saw the punt return against UMass, he kind of zigzag scored, but against Iowa, much easier time, just a wide open, straight line hole. But then even later in that game, Iowa, Weegan again almost scored before halftime. Rutgers was able to chase him down. And then in Minnesota too, Coit Parrish, another dynamic returner, able to get into field goal range. And Rutgers has kind of gotten bailed out because, those didn't result in points. But I mean, that's the thing, that it's not just like a one-time occurrence. It's been multiple times. So I feel like with the kickoff returning, like that has to be, figured out, because Rutgers, not every time will they get so lucky. I mean, if that keeps happening, a team will be able to get a field goal. They might be able to get a touchdown on that before the half, something backbreaking. And I mean, that's like the last thing, Rutgers really needs right now.
No, yeah, I mean, one thing I can tell you when it comes to when teams have issues, whether if it's the D line or the O line, I should say Coach Shiano teams, if it's D line, O line, wide receivers, special teams, if the team is having the issues on, usually before the issues happen, coach lets the coach their positions, let them do it. When the team starts messing up and starts to slack a little bit or becomes an area of concern for the team, Shiano goes right over to those drills with them, and I'll tell you what, the different intensity level that comes when Coach Shiano's coaching you, running down there, they stay on your lanes compared to the special teams coach, it's just a little bit different. Let's just say that you get a pass rush on and you're in the middle trying to, when you're one-on-one and you have your D-line, O-line coach there, coach you. And when Shiano's right there behind you, it's just a little bit different. So let's just say the areas of concern, I'm sure he was right behind those guys this bye week and getting on them a little bit.
I'm sure he has a loud and extravagant vocabulary when he has to go address issues like that.
Oh yeah, believe me, it's probably the worst feeling in the world when coach is over there watching the drill. You're like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
Now that we've kind of touched on Washington a little bit and the different position groups for Rutgers, last year Rutgers was on a 4-game losing streak going into their bye week. Even though we're not on a 4-game losing streak right now, it kind of seems that we're going that way. Is there any kind of predictions for the rest of the season that you have? And are you expecting a turnaround like they had last year, where they just came thundering out of that bye week and rattled off 3 wins, 3 out of 4 games?
I think I said this to Fonseca and Politi the other day. I said, when back in 2008, when we started off 1-5, and it was miserable going into that Hale Center, being around that building. It was just terrible. You just needed something to go your way. You needed one thing to happen to just flip the script, change the mood of everyone to see, like, we've been through so much. How do we get through it? Obviously, like you said, they're not on a 4 or 5 game losing streak. They lost 2 in a row. But it kind of feels like that. You just kind of need that one thing to go your way. And back then it was For us, was 2008 was the UConn. We won 13-12. They hit the upright on a field goal attempt to lose the game, and after that, we rattled off 7 straight. That's kind of what this team needs. They need something to go their way after all this hard work. They built this callus of trying to fight back and being on the other side of it. They need that one good thing to happen, whether if that's a fumble recovery, if that's like a tip ball that gets in there, you catch an interception, and you give your team like a field position, just something big in that second half that can flip the whole script around, and the team can be like, yes, finally got the monkey off of my back type of thing. That's what this team needs. And once they get that confidence, then you see, like you said, you start to roll out those wins after wins after wins. Obviously, they have a very tough schedule ahead, but they still need just that one signature moment that can just change an entire season around.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people might say that momentum is a little bit overrated. I guess obviously you as a player, you just dissuaded that whole fact.
Momentum carries on. I know they say every week is different, but when you gain confidence after a big win, that can roll into the next one, to the next one, to the next one.
When you talked about like fixing some fundamentals in the bye week, are there like certain ones? I mean, obviously we talked ad nauseum about the kicking game and special teams, but is there like specific little nuggets, like perhaps tackling? He's addressed that a couple times in his press conference. Is there something like specific little nuggets like that you see as drastically improved after the bye week?
Well, that's one thing we actually haven't touched on. It is tackling. And Rutgers defense has always been known to first man wraps up, the rest of the team swarms to the defense. When you start to see multiple hats getting to the ball and driving people backwards and through the ground, that's when you know a defense is hitting on all the chords. We haven't seen much of that this year when you got guys, getting there, holding up their guy, and then you see the rest of the defense coming and piling in, bringing that, that's just that swagger to the defense. Seattle loves that. That's what we were built on. That's what we were trained for. You have multiple guys getting hats to the ball, driving the offense back. Once you see the defense like that, you know that they have confidence out there and they're flying around. And that's something I know he puts emphasis on, because these guys that they're playing, they're big, they're strong, they're fast. You need multiple guys getting there. And one guy to take down a guy, it's nice. Just these kids are too good now. It's hard for one guy to make a tackle on these players. So you have to get multiple hats to the ball, driving that offense backwards. And I'm sure those tackling drills this bye week were no joke as well, because I've been to those tackling stations. It doesn't matter how tired you are, those reps are crucial. So I'm sure they put a little bit more time doing those tackling circuits this week as well.
Yeah, makes sense. I guess another question that I had, I mean, it's been kind of an emotional week for, or not even week, but like, a few games for the Rutgers fan base as a whole. Obviously, Iowa's always been kind of seen as a measuring stick game. We didn't get that one. Minnesota, a tough road loss. Rutgers kind of needed that one almost for bowl eligibility. Now going, I think I'm being myself, but yeah, Iowa definitely, an emotional loss for Rutgers. Minnesota, a road loss where Rutgers, wanted to bounce back. They kind of almost needed it for bowl eligibility. Couldn't quite get that one either. So now coming on a 2-game losing streak, Washington. What would a Washington win? I mean, I don't want to say like a close loss, but like even like a competitive effort. I mean, I know Oregon's a sellout game, but what would a win like do for this fan base? It's when they get back to SHI Stadium to really jolt that team against a very, very good Oregon team the following week.
Oh man, it's huge. A huge win like on the road in that environment in Washington on TV on a Friday night. That plane flight ride home would be amazing for obviously the team, but just the fan base, knowing that you can go into that type of environment and get a big win on the road like that, it would be huge. Obviously, every game is important. You want to win them all, and you think about what happened in Iowa and Minnesota. Those games were right there for the taking, and unfortunately, they weren't able to obviously pull those out and win. But you went on the road versus this Washington team with all odds against you. You're the underdog. Everyone's going against you. That will bring the fan base right back. What winning cures it all. When you win, everything that happens, kind of goes for bed. You forget about all that other stuff. You forget about those losses that happen when you start to win in a big game like this that they need on the road. That would just have everyone in the fan base just at ease, because you're obviously with three in a row. You got that one, and obviously you look at the rest of the schedule. But at that point, you enjoy that victory as a fan base, and you get ready for the rest of the season after that. But this one, I went on the road versus Washington at this moment in the season. Huge, huge.
And we need that kind of fan atmosphere at our stadium. Shano has talked about it several times at nauseum. When he first came back, he addressed the student section at the basketball arena, and it has steadily improved over time. And it's very interesting to see about how New Jersey seems to be buying more and more into this program, because I'm sure you remember the Ash era when the stadium would be desolate and you could see tumbleweeds going across the stadium. But now it seems that Jersey is buying a little bit more into what Rutgers football can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the product on the field, you want to see, the wins come. But I give credit to PJ Mullen and his marketing team as well. That atmosphere at the stadium is awesome, from the boardwalk to the tailgating. You know, obviously you see what all the theatrics that go into the blackout game with the fireworks and the band and all that. It is a great show. It's a fun time. The music playing, the students are into it. It makes it a great atmosphere. And now you got to just keep on trying to, add up wins on that field to make people come. You're in New Jersey. Listen, we know this area. You got 150 teams that you can support in this area, whether if that's, with professional leagues and whatnot. And obviously, we're the only major college football team around. But there's so much to do in this area. If you win, people come. People will come. Mm-hmm. If you win, people want to be a part of you. They want to be part of their success. They want to be in that environment. When you lose, it's people like, all right, well, I'll find something else to do. I'm not going to waste my time or money on that night. But these kids need that support. They need them there. The kids build off of that atmosphere. They see the students waving their towels in the student section. You see the crowd yelling and getting loud on third downs. As a former player, man, there was nothing better than having your fan base behind you. So now Rutgers just has to find a way to continuously get them back. And I know it's not an easy task. It's easy to just say, but to have that support, even through the tough times, goes a long way with those kids. So I hope the fan base continues to show up and show out for this team.
Yeah, you really got to give respect to the student section with the way that they've shown up. Like 45 minutes before kickoff, that thing was packed.
Not even they're staying after halftime, guys. Like, that was a thing. After halftime was over, the student section was like, wait, what happened? No, these people are staying.
Yeah, they're staying, and they even for like the first 3 games, Ohio, Miami, Norfolk, the student section's been packed almost an hour before kickoff, and a lot of them stay to the end. So it's really great to see them really lead what the rest of the stadium should do, and then the rest of the stadium obviously following suit. So I mean, the crowd's been great, like you said, the marketing, the production, the theatrics. I was a former band member, and I mean, they've been doing a heck of a job. So I mean, just the whole everything around game day has been really good. I mean, unfortunately, we couldn't get the win for our community, for the Iowa game when everybody was there, and then obviously Minnesota happened. But hopefully they can turn it around, because we've got another big sellout game against a really good Oregon team coming out.
It should be packed there for that. You see how it's a week-to-week league as well. You see Penn State's whiteout.
Yeah.
Overtime when Oregon obviously didn't pull out. Then the next week they go on the road and lose to UCLA. So
right.
You see how it's a week-to-week league when it comes to football. That's why you never know what can actually happen when that's why you got to line up and play between the lines. So that's why winning versus Washington. And you just come out, you set yourself up, like, hey, you never know what can happen here.
Any given Saturday, or I guess Friday in this case.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever you want to say nowadays. And the college football people play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah. Action, games in there, yeah.
Yeah. So just to kind of bring everything full circle a little bit before we wrap this thing up, just wanted to plug your bourbon one more time. I know it's available on your website. It's going for $54.99, available online, ericlegrandwhiskey.com. Is there any local areas that maybe even around Rutgers that people can go and get your product?
Yeah, so I put out a list actually on my social media yesterday about all these different locations that I've taken in. We've had some great partners throughout the entire state. It's hard to name all of them, and I hate to to leave them out. But like around Rutgers, you got the Scarlet Knights liquor store. You have Bottle Republic. I know Joe's Liquor took it in. There's a few other ones around that are right there by campus that are taking it in, and will be available on all the Total Wines, throughout the month, and then the Buy Rights, the Bottle Kings, and Joe Canals are also taking us in. Even Costco is bringing us back into their Wayne and Edison location. So throughout this next month, you'll see a bunch popping up. But right now, I think we're close to 40 locations that already have it on site between bars, restaurants, and liquor stores.
That's awesome. We'll have all your social media outreach plugged into the article that's going to be attached to this podcast. So if people are looking for perhaps a more local place to go buy your bourbon, they'll be able to just check there and have it there for you. Again, it's a great gift for a Scarlet Knights fan. If you know somebody, a big fan, go out, get them a bottle. You both can enjoy it together, right?
Absolutely. Got the rest of this football season, got basketball season coming up in the holiday. So make sure you're pulling up that Scarlet Knight Series. We need to support.
Yep, sounds good. That pretty much does it for everything that we have on the agenda here today, unless there's something, Arnav, you wanted to mention real quick?
Yeah, I guess just like another quick question. Like obviously this week, Kelly's in like debuted the Athletic Excellence Fund, and obviously it ties in with fundraising for RNIL. Like I guess especially as a former athlete, like what do you think this like really means for Rutgers keeping up with the modern times? Because this is absolutely like a big step for modern Rutgers to be able to keep up with modern college athletics.
It is, the way that the world is now with NIL, this is a huge step, and obviously Kelly's in. With her background and where she's coming from, I have my full trust in her and her plan and what she's ready to do for this university and making sure that we can compete on the highest levels. And right now, you got to raise the funds, you got to raise money, you got to get the best athletes in all the sports, from around the nation if you want to survive. And this is the way that we have to do it. So I have my full trust in her and this new athletic fund that they just created. And I think the Rutgers community will get behind it because we want to see success at Rutgers.
Yeah, I definitely do.
All right. So like I mentioned before, that pretty much does it for everything that we have here today. Everyone, go check out the links that will be available in the article attached to this podcast. Go buy yourself some bourbon. Treat yourself a little bit, right?
That's right.
As for the people watching, thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of us. Eric, thank you so much for coming on. And as always, remember, the bells must ring.